Hello? Hello, Claire, you're on mute.
Yes. I've been saying hello while muted. How are you?
Good. Give me 1 second. I just gotta connect my headset.
Hmm. Yeah, you're coming across loud and clear.
Now you're gonna tell me it sounds less good, right?
Yes, because you put your
Is it?
your earbuds in or something.
Yes. Is it bad or no?
Well, you sound well like you usually sound, really, because that's your usual procedure, isn't it? Um, you have to put your and then you go about your business. But that's fine
Yeah.
as long as you're audible, which you are. And
Yeah. I don't. I have no interest in YouTube anymore. I mean, Spaces is so much better. I don't know. Why do you still stream on YouTube? You just want to keep up your channel?
um, I suppose I it's a different protocol, isn't it? I mean, I'm just sort of going through your um, space yesterday, and it was 10 hours or nearly 10 hours. And I suppose it allows us to go on, and but I guess I don't want it to go on for too long, and then um, and also I find it distracting. So many people jumping on, and really, I kind of want to stick to the subject and um, and finish this discussion on the topic. I noticed I was getting a bit ratty with Rake um, because he just wouldn't stick to the subject. And but I know, I mean, the different styles, the different hosting styles, I suppose. And maybe I should just sort of go with hosting these really, really, really long streams. And you do get some gems, as I've noticed with yours. And but the thing is, do people ever listen to 10-hour streams? Do they even begin them? I guess it's good for your engagement, and but I sort of wonder whether I don't know. I guess it's swings and roundabouts. Um, but as I go through your space yesterday at double speed, I guess a few interesting revelations are made that Anointed didn't agree with Esther about the Muslims worshipping a different god, and they were arguing about it for a bit. Did you? Or maybe you didn't even hear it. Did you hear that bit, or did you miss it?
I can't remember now. There was a lot that was said. I wasn't there the entire time, but I was there enough to know. I know you dislike Sarge, even though I'm going to be interviewing her sometime soon.
Yeah. What's her background? She used to work in the armed forces, but she's Christian.
She's born. She calls herself an ethnic Jew, but she's Christian by religion.
That's right. Yes. So. And she was driving Esther mad, and she made Esther leave in the end because she couldn't stand it anymore. And she said, I'm just contaminating myself, talking to these people and that sort of thing. Um, but do you ever wonder about the status of different peoples? Because if you don't, um, obviously everybody has an opinion, but you can't equally, I guess, value them because then. you'd never end, would you? You'd have to go straight to the top and say, Rabbi this and Islamic scholar that, or Pope this, and Archbishop of Canterbury. You're the final, arbiter of doctrinal matters, and what do you say about this or that? I suppose I do want a final answer from somebody anyway, or we'll just be going round and round in circles forever. And I think it is through hierarchy that we get to the solution, and or some final judgment about this or that.
All your hierarchy stuff is so like repulsive to Americans because we're so the opposite of that. You know what I mean? We're so the opposite of hierarchy, status. We're kind of like the people, the hillbilly who makes it all the way to the top. You know what I mean? Even though he came from humble beginnings, and even things like maybe having the wrong religion, having the wrong race, having the wrong gender, having the wrong sexuality, you can still get somewhere in high positions in America. So this whole status thing doesn't really work here.
But you're quite snobby. I mean, not you necessarily, but I notice that Americans are very snobby, like, ooh, fly over country, the wrong state. And I get the impression
that but it's not like
live in Alabama.
Okay, it's not like there's no rich people there, and it's not like you can't become president of the United States just because you're from Missouri. I mean, it's not like that in America. Someone born in a trailer can become the president of America. It's not really,
in theory. I mean, who was the most humble American from the humblest beginnings?
Well, I don't know, but I mean, maybe.
He was born. Abraham Lincoln was born in a log cabin, wasn't he?
Yes, he was born in a log cabin, and so he's but America is so anathema to hierarchy, to status. It's all like, do your thing, don't care what anyone thinks about you, don't worry about it. Like, you know what I mean? We had Hindus running for president in this country, and it wasn't that big of a deal. People weren't making a big fuss out of it. And there's people who wanted Trump to choose Tulsi Gabbard as his running mate, which probably would have been better than J.D. Vance.
What don't you like about J.D. Vance?
He was a never Trumper, and he's this. It was to make the boomers happy. He's a boring old fuddy-duddy conservative, pro-Israel, just kind of run-of-the-mill, old school, not dangerous, whereas and nothing, he added nothing to the ticket. He didn't draw in a new crowd. It was just to throw red beef at the people who already loved Trump. Whereas Tulsi Gabbard would have brought in women, liberals, Democrats, gays, Hindus. It would have brought in a new.
So we know she's not Zionist. What's her position on the war in the Ukraine?
Well, I don't know that she's not Zionist.
Right. Okay. So, I mean, there's no difference other than, I guess, Tulsi Gabbard is more attractive. But isn't she a Democrat?
She used to be, and then she switched parties basically.
Oh, so now she's a Republican.
Yeah, she switched parties. That's why she should have been chosen. You know what I mean? It would have been better. I mean, I don't know how she's going to be on Israel, or I don't know how she's going to be on any of this stuff. She has to make her own path. She did run for president. I think she's going to run for president again in the future, maybe after this administration. You
Mhm.
know, she can.
Okay, that's interesting. I didn't know about that. But I guess you could see Trump and Vance being a kind of last hurrah for, white men.
Really
And
baby boomers more than white men.
mhm,
Not
mhm.
young white men. He's not the champion of young white men at all.
I mean, okay, I've heard a range of views about whether Trump is going to win, and the ones who say he's going to win are very confident. It's sort of like, his working at McDonald's for one day. It's like, well, that makes it in the bag. And then a few days before that, there was this brilliant speech that he made. I think it was the one that um, Kamala Harris ran away from or something, but it was just, I think 28 minutes, and it was very witty. I don't know if you heard it or not.
No, I haven't.
But maybe you're kind of, you have a bit of a downer on Trump, but the ones who are positive about it seem very, very positive indeed, to the extent that they're saying he can't lose. And Caleb Morpin is a young man, I would say, and he's not, the usual Trump supporter. He comes from the left wing. I mean, he actually was a commie, but he's calling himself, I don't know, a political innovator or something, Um, and I do trust his commentary, because he just has this persona of reminding people of their favorite primary school teacher. I do send you his videos, but possibly you never watch them.
Well,
But I
I
think
mean, I know who he is, and I know, like, generally, and yes, he's a leftist or whatever he is now. But what does that say? That Trump's biggest supporter is a leftist? I mean,
that he's brought people round to Trump, the leftists, that which addresses your criticism of him not using Tulsi Gabbard because she's a attractive woman, I guess.
she more than attractive. She just would bring a new perspective, and not be old, fuddy-duddy, stuffy, conservative, old school. The gray-haired people love him.
Well, there is an argument to be made, I think, for people who have a bit of experience and a few grey hairs, being in charge of, the world's number one superpower and not be some, young gun waiting to gamble away, whatever imperial possessions or reputation America has. I mean, okay, probably because I'm older than you, I don't see the problem of letting people with grey hairs be national leader.
No, I didn't say no. I didn't say that. I said that people with gray hair like JD Vance, that he doesn't have gray hair. He's younger than I am, or he's my age, and he's young, but
And he has connections in the Marines,
a little bit, yeah.
which is useful.
But so does Tulsi Gabbard.
But the thing is, Vance is a man.
Okay, well,
And he has an Asian wife, yes, an Indian wife. Is she Indian or what? I don't know what race she is.
Yeah, she's Indian.
So I guess you get some color. And what else was I going to say? Well, okay, I mean, I do listen to people, and they seem, quite confident that he will win. And I don't know what the polls say. Have you been looking at the polls?
Well, I don't know.
Or
Trump.
are you just using your your perception and of things without really?
Look, okay. Look, the first time Trump ran and some of the second time, people were making memes. People were calling him God Emperor Trump. Everyone loved him. I didn't hear anything on the right to, everyone liked him. Everyone wanted him. There was this big concerted effort. Now, everywhere I go, all these right wing commentators are just hating on him. I didn't see that before.
Okay, these are, I suppose, anecdotal perceptions. Now, did I send you this thing by Dugin on Telegram? Because it was couched in quite grandiose terms. So let me just look at the title again, because I was thinking, wow, I mean, what is it? Why Donald Trump is a mystical figure of historic proportions, which is, pretty impressive, I guess. Or don't you think? And this is by, a Russian. Did you read that? Maybe not.
Alexander Dugin wrote this.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I want to talk to the electorate. I don't want to talk to some thought leader who, what? I want to talk to young, up and coming voters, new voters, that are starting to take over the electorate. Every single year, more and more older people are dying off, and more younger people are entering into the electorate. And listening to them, you can listen to young people. You can, young people, if you feel like everywhere you go, all these young people are talking negatively about Trump, then something is up, especially if it was the opposite when the first time.
Well, I mean, things are bound to be a little different, but what matters is, the proof of the pudding is in the eating, and if he does win, then I guess he was right to do the things he did.
Okay, but he's not doing anything to change the fact that he has lost a lot of support. He's not doing anything except for rushing to the left and saying that Bibi Netanyahu is doing such a great job. That, and that he's going to get rid of Jew haters. Like, that's his whole response to people not wanting to vote for him. Just throw gasoline on the fire of the anti-Trump rhetoric. Like, that's what his he's trying to get leftists to vote for him now, not his original base.
Well, you were saying you wanted more women and gay people, etc., to vote for him, and now
Okay,
you're saying
well,
you don't want them to vote for him.
Voting for him as he was, not as he is now. Look, the first time around, Trump made everyone think that he was not going to be beholden to the Jews. He was telling the Jews, "I don't need your money. I can win this election without you." Blah 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 blah. And then as soon as he got into power, everything was Israel, and the Jews were his number one cabinet members. He rose the Orthodox up to the highest position in his cabinets and in his meetings and in his whoever he listens to. And
but he was threatening them. I mean, I really like the way he said, "If I don't win, you'll get the blame." And I'm afraid I just loved how he managed to do that. And this was, in fact, how CNN reported it. And we have discussed it before, and I did point it out to you, but you obviously don't agree. But I think throughout the campaign, I have seen flashes of brilliance. But I guess you're not going to get over him saying, threatening things to people who don't like Jews. But I mean, he has actually said he was going to deport illegal immigrants. So, he's addressed all the issues as far as I can tell with his, Agenda 47. And then he also said, and he also distanced himself from, what was it, the 2025 project, which he said wasn't his, though, obviously a lot of his supporters would support that. And he's sort of been smart in saying, I'm not going to be banning abortion. I'm going to leave it to the individual states. So I think he's actually he's doing very well. And also, I do remember one when he was talking to the blacks, they ambushed him, by asking him a lot of really hostile questions, and you saw all these black women with their reams and reams of prepared questions and speeches to read out at him, and he was just sitting there looking perfectly relaxed and answering them back. And doing so well. So, I mean, I was full of admiration. So, okay, I haven't watched much of his recent appearances other than the ones I mentioned, and I might have fallen asleep in the middle because it's always too late, quite late in the middle of the night. But, and okay, what I have to report to you today is that there is somebody I exchanged messages with, and he's American, and I know he's young, and he was saying he would be voting Trump. So, but he said he didn't know and he didn't care, and a few other people said they don't know and they don't care, and suddenly they're saying that they do care, they do want him to win after all. So I don't know. I mean,
Okay.
I guess.
Okay, Claire. I mean, I mean, I also have my, Claire, if you think I'm the only person that's sick having to vote for him, then I
Well, I
don't know
know the
what to.
Groypers wouldn't be happy. I know, Nick Fuentes wouldn't be happy. But he's not really a serious political thinker, is he?
Well, Trump lost him. He was working for Trump, and now, I mean, working to promote Trump, and now he's working to promote the opposite and promoting apathy, and so is all these other people. And everywhere you go, even if they're saying don't vote for Trump, they're trashing him. Trump was supposed to be the savior. Now there's Trump is the Antichrist meme. I never, in his first election, I never saw Trump as the Antichrist rhetoric. There was no Trump is Antichrist rhetoric. Now it's everywhere.
Well, I thought, there were quite a few memes about him being the Messiah.
There were, and now it's the opposite, that he's the Antichrist.
Do you want me to read the Dugan article, or maybe not?
If you want to, you can read it. I mean, if he wants to bump Trump up into this, maybe in 2016 he was this charismatic, enigmatic rise to power leader, but
he's still charismatic.
no, he's not charismatic. He's not charismatic anymore. He's just, his energy is down. First of all, he's older. He was the president for 4 years, so he's tired. He's been wasted away a little bit.
He worked for McDonald's for a day.
You know what?
Oh, come on. I mean, can't you just give him credit where it's due? I mean, even Kamala couldn't do that. Oh yes, the other thing was she pretended that she used to work for McDonald's, and then it's like, no, she never worked for McDonald's. It's another lie. She was so rich she wouldn't have to do anything like that, and that's going to look bad for Kamala. I don't know why you have such a downer for him. I mean, okay, you may not do everything to your liking, but let let's not make the perfect be the enemy of the good enough, or the only option available. I mean, what's going to happen if you don't vote for him? You're going to get Kamala. You're going to get more, more of the same. So I
No,
don't know
I mean,
why you think.
it doesn't even matter if I vote. I'm in a supermajority Democrat state. Democrats own the state. It's not a swing state. It's not in play. Trump doesn't campaign here because it doesn't matter. He's not going to win here, and it really doesn't matter if I vote. It doesn't matter.
Well, your husband thinks it does, or is
Why
taking a lot of trouble,
how does
and
it
he
matter if
supports him.
how does it matter if I'm in a supermajority Democrat state? How does that matter?
Because it will count towards a total of votes being cast for Trump.
Yeah, but that's not how you win an election.
I know, but it's just a principle of the thing, Vincent.
Okay, if every Republican in New Jersey went out and voted, then he still wouldn't win the state.
Okay, but I mean, he actually went to California. So and California is supposed to be this, supermarket to have a super majority for the Democrats. So he's well, who knows? He might even win California, because I guess the Californians are the ones who are most fed up with these pro-immigration policies.
I don't think California's in play. I think he went to just because he did one rally in the state doesn't mean that he's trying to swing the state. I don't think he has any delusions about swinging the state of California. He might have had a rally there, but if you see all his rallies are happening in the swing states, Elon Musk was paying money for people to register in the swing states. That's what they're worried about. And no, I mean, whether I vote or not, he's winning my state. So my vote really doesn't count. And you don't win votes in America by general population, by the whole population majority vote. You have to win the Electoral College. So the only states that really matter are those 5 or 7 or whatever it is, battleground states.
Okay, but I mean, he has, well, he dropped in on California, which shows that he's trying. And then he revisited the place where Butler in Pennsylvania, where he was shot. That was also a good move. I think that there are lots of good moves that he's made. And I think he's run quite a good campaign, but okay, that's just my opinion. I still hope he wins. I don't know what he's going to do about Iran. Obviously, I hope he doesn't start a war, but I think he would be less likely to start a war than Kamala, because Kamala hasn't got a position on anything, and she's obviously waiting for instructions and relying on people to doctor and deep fake interviews to make her sound like she's saying something sensible. And I guess when it's so obvious who you should vote for, I think we should make the most of the opportunity when it's so obvious what you should vote for. And anyway, but I can't vote. And
yeah, well, I mean,
why are you being so negative, though?
Well, first of all, it doesn't. You know what? It's a moot topic because it doesn't matter whether I vote or not. It doesn't matter. So it's a moot topic. I mean, why should I even vote if it doesn't matter? I'm only voting because for ceremony. It's like a ceremonial thing.
Well,
it's not.
Well, yes, but I don't know why you are being so negative. I mean, he might even win, so you might be completely wrong about all your perceptions. So why can't you? Well, I thought the least you could be is to be neutral about the whole thing. But maybe you just have a downer for some other reason. You have a downer on Trump for some other reason.
Oh God! Look, my father's not going to vote for him because he promoted the vaccine. A lot of people are not going to vote for him because he promoted the vaccine. A
Well,
lot of
they might find
people.
it in their hearts to forgive him. I mean, have you spoken to your father recently? Has he said again that he won't vote for him? Because I think a few people who said they wouldn't vote for him are saying they will. But of course, I don't know if they
Well, I
actually
don't
will
know
or
if my
whatever.
father's changed his mind, but since the last time I spoke with him, no, he was not going to be voting for Trump, even though it doesn't matter. He's in a supermajority state anyway. It doesn't matter if he votes. It doesn't matter. I mean, it's like it's a moot point when you don't live in a swing state because it really doesn't matter whether you vote or not if you're on the minority side.
Well, it does matter if if the election is contested, and then then you have to count all the votes, and then you have to and people kind of want to know, well, actually how many Americans voted for Trump, and without bothering about whether they're in a swing state, and how many actual votes did he get. So I think because it does count, people might as well do it, and maybe as things hot up, if Americans are impressed by the campaign he has run, they might turn out for him. And this is what I hope. And it's certainly been entertaining. I don't think it's been a dull campaign at all. With Kamala saying the wrong thing, and the assassination attempts, and so many things. So I maybe your attitude is just unduly pessimistic for reasons that were we don't quite know. Um, but I wanted to ask you, about your latest ideas. You have been obviously developing them, and you've been reading papers on polytheism. Uh, what are your thoughts about developing these ideas? Because yesterday you said that if you wanted more than one deity, then it would mean that neither, if there are only two or none of them, if there are three or more, are going to be all powerful, and that might be considered a disadvantage to the
What?
believer.
How is it a disadvantage when there's absolutely no real world change? Whether you believe God is all powerful or not all powerful, nothing about this universe changes.
Nothing about the universe changes.
What changes? Do you get magic powers? Do you get more money? What do you get for believing this?
You get, I guess, spiritual peace. You think, if you truly have faith in God, you will think that everything will turn out well, even though you're not quite sure how,
so
and,
you
and
you
good will
want
triumph over evil.
well, that could all happen with polytheism too, but you wanna feel as though God got you hit by a truck rather than thinking your favorite God didn't do this to you. It was someone else. I don't have to get into why God made me get hit by a truck, looking for reasons why I'm hit by a truck. I can just, I don't have to blame or feel as though my deity got me hit by a truck for some sick reason to teach me some sick lesson.
Well, you wouldn't want that, but it's okay. It's the easiest narrative to believe, right? Because it's like it's one God, and then nobody's going to argue with you about that. It's only when you say, oh, there's more than one, and then people will say, oh, so what are they?
No, this was the if okay, without revelation, without your Abrahamic revelation, if you just put people in a forest, like they would probably just most of these ancient cultures were polytheistic and idolatrous. If you just leave people to their own devices, they become polytheistic.
Yes, so they'll worship a tree or a mountain or the river or something of that nature, and but there's no power in that. So, if you
How do
if
you
you're
know? Where's your power? Do you have magic powers from worshiping Allah? Do you have anything? Do all Muslims have billions of dollars in psychic powers or something? What do you have that you can prove to me you have over me? Show me something tangible you can show that you have over me.
well, Muslim identity is very firm compared to Christian identity. So if you're asking me for this life benefits and objective measures, that's all I can say.
Okay,
So,
well, Muslims are still the third most powerful people. I mean, if you count Jews as number one, then they get number one. Christians get number two, and what's his name? Muslims get number three. So don't like get up on your high horse and
but the
say, well,
story's not over.
okay. Well, the story so far has shown that Muslims take number three, not even number two. They take number three, and so don't go around. Don't cat. You're counting your chicks before they hatch. You know what I mean? You're just assuming you're going to win, and as you said, the story's not over. And since you're in third place, you have no right to, no bragging rights.
Well, nobody's bragging. I mean, but today I'm saying, no, actually, it was yesterday on Rake's Space that I said Jews, Christians, and Muslims have skeletons in their cupboards that they don't want to talk about. And I know what they are, like, having listened to your spaces and other people's, that that they haven't exactly made the most of their religion, shall we say. So if you're saying, well, why are Muslims bumping along at the bottom and not doing that much, if their holy book is supposed to be the best in the world, then my answer is this: that they don't follow it properly. And I'm saying there's no reason why Westerners can't follow it better than the Muslims whose civilizations have crashed and burnt. I mean, it wouldn't be fair if I gave you directions to San Jose when you asked me for them, and the directions were correct, but you didn't follow them properly and ended up in San Antonio. It wouldn't be my fault.
Okay, well then it's obviously something nobody doesn't follow paganism correctly, and these pagans had anti-murder and anti-theft laws. So it's obviously. Hold on one second.
Bless you. Bless you.
Obviously, either people don't want to follow these directions, or they're not clear, or obviously people don't want to follow it. And also, why the Muslims are following them better than the West. So why aren't they better off? I mean, if you're at least following them better and going in the right direction instead of the opposite direction, you should be better off than people who just have no direction at all.
Well, yeah. So the Muslims can at least, pat themselves on the back and say, well, at least our birth rates are better, and we're less likely to be gay and transgender, and these little things, and we know our religion makes sense, unlike the Christians, and our numbers are increasing. So that's something to be proud of ourselves. And yes, we are indeed colonizing the West, and we always win the theological argument, and even Jews are afraid to argue with us, so they can pat themselves on the back about these things, even though they're not yet top dog. But give it time. I mean, obviously, not everything is written in stone, and the race is not yet finished.
Okay, well, you still don't have bragging rights. You can't go around telling everyone that you've won, and that it's and just because something wins, it can win temporarily. Christianity won temporarily.
Mm-hmm.
It can. So Islam, even if it does win, it can win only temporarily. But with the secular paganism, if you just First of all, the only thing is that, why are people following this? Well, you want to preserve paganism, right? If you're a pagan, you want it to be preserved, then you would follow this legal system. It's not about that it was revealed from God. You don't need a revelation from God. It makes sense. It's natural law. It's rational. It's reasonable, like no murder, like no theft. It's based on that. And so I don't need to make up a story. I don't need to tell people that I got a message from the gods. I don't need to say that the gods are behind it. I don't need to make up a narrative. I don't need to make up a story. I can just say, obviously, look around the world, wherever monotheism goes, idolatry is wiped out violently. And if you don't want that to happen, just don't allow monotheism to spread.
Yeah, but the advantage of the Abrahamic God and the people who believe in him is that they already have a story, and you're thousands of years behind trying to supersede their narrative, and
Okay,
also
well,
you have to make up a story, and
I
this
don't
means
have to make up a story. It's just logic, reason, rationalism, natural law, natural thinking. I don't have to make up a story.
okay, so you're saying it's enough, sensible people will know not to kill and steal and rape. And I'm saying yes, but there will be people who say, well, I might do those things if I can get away with it. And if nobody's looking, I'll do those things. While, people who believe in God, if they did properly, would think, well, God is always watching because he knows everything.
Well, you know what? I think crime and punishment, I mean, in communist Russia, where they were all atheists, I don't think they had mass murder sprees every day, of atheist people who decided, well, you know what? I'm not going to get punished in the afterlife. I just might as well go out into the streets and kill people. They didn't do that because they were scared of the law. Most people are not going to murder if they feel as though they're going to get caught for it. And how easy is it to get away with murder? How easy is that? That's really hard. There's a body. You got to move the body. You got to do all this. It's really hard. It's really hard to escape punishment for murdering somebody.
Well, I guess if you kill some stranger in the street or something, then probably you might get away with it because there's nothing to connect you with it.
Okay, the likelihood of these things, the likelihood of these things. America has lost a lot of its faith, but you know what I mean. It's still not a murderous country like that. And actually, anyone who's murdering probably is more likely to believe in God and blow up an abortion clinic or something like that than some atheists. I don't think atheists are out there just being like, I can get away with, or no, not that they can get away with it, thinking to themselves, well, God doesn't know, so let me take the chance. I might get away with it. Maybe I can just find some random stranger on the road and stab them real quick and run away and get away with that. That's not how people think.
Well, okay, people don't kill people. Most people don't kill people for fun. It's always in the course of doing something else and you accidentally kill them or whatever. But the point to remember is that if most people did believe in God, then more people would be more likely to obey certain laws from generation to generation because they're
Okay,
already.
okay,
Well, I mean, that's
you need
true, isn't it? You're not going to deny that.
you need to prove the law is not enough, and you know what I mean. And it's like the law has to be enough. Look, Jehovah's Witnesses do not believe they are punished in the afterlife for their crimes
Why
on earth.
not?
They just disappear. You don't get punished for it. You just disappear. You have no understanding of your existence, of where you were, of who you were. There's just black nothing. You don't even have consciousness anymore. Jehovah's Witnesses are not known for running out and stealing, even though they don't believe they're going to get consequences for it. They're known for not stealing. They're known for being sexually chaste. They're known for not murdering. They're the opposite of murderers. The problem is they don't defend themselves, if anything. So I don't believe there's many religions that don't believe in punishment in afterlife.
Okay, so you're saying all Jehovah's Witnesses that they don't believe in an afterlife? Jehovah's Witnesses don't believe in it?
Only if you're good. Only if you're good.
Right, okay, there's no hell, but what
No.
kind of heaven do good Jehovah's Witnesses enjoy?
They get a paradise earth. They get resurrected here on earth, and they enjoy a paradise earth in their human bodies.
Right. Well, I suppose, people are, well, they either believe or they don't believe. But I mean, the whole idea is that people are more likely to obey the laws if they think they're fair enough.
Well, aren't Jehovah's Witnesses an example of why you don't need hell to stop murder, or you don't need afterlife punishments to stop theft? They're very well aware of the fact that if they murdered or steal, that there's no consequences for it in the afterlife.
Well, they would just not have an afterlife.
Yeah, they would.
Well,
they wouldn't. Yeah, they would not have an afterlife. But I mean,
well, everybody else who was good would.
well, not knowing that you even existed is not torment.
Well, maybe that's why so many Jehovah's Witnesses don't stay Jehovah's Witnesses. Because I did read some years ago that Jehovah's Witnesses have the highest attrition rate.
Okay, since the ones who do stay are not known for being murderers, rapists, and thieves, it proves that it's not necessary. You don't need hellfire to keep people in line.
Yes, but I suppose they remain Jehovah's Witnesses because they love their community and they don't want to, live outside it. But
And some of them
people
believe
like
in what.
kind of want something better, and you're full of regret that you didn't go to university, etc., etc. And maybe there are more ex-Jehovah's Witnesses than there are Jehovah's Witnesses.
That's besides the point. You have to prove to me that Jehovah's Witnesses who don't believe in hell are out murdering, thieving, and raping in higher proportions than the rest of the population, which is absolutely the opposite.
Well, I certainly wouldn't want to deny that Jehovah's Witnesses are not law-abiding, but I'm talking about society as a whole. And when I talk about society, I mean, national crime statistics, because we're talking about not just people who share our religious beliefs, but our actual country. And
Okay.
I'm saying it would be, just so much easier if everybody had the same beliefs.
Okay, well, prove to me
difficult.
Prove to me that murder, rape, and theft is more common in communist China than it is in Islam.
I don't have the statistic to hand. All I have is anecdotal evidence, my own. People say it's very safe to go out in the evening. There are lights and light shows, and families walking around. Khalid said the same thing about Jordan. Late at night, families walking around, and not afraid of being mugged. While in the West, you might just get raped or mugged. So there is a qualitative difference.
Well, okay, but what about like in the West is, there's a lot of freedoms in the West and things like that, but also the West is an atheist, so it's not really, or wasn't until recently, it wasn't until recently. But I don't think communist Russia was I don't think mass murder of civilians by other civilians was really an internal problem.
Okay, I don't know about the crime statistics of Russia, but I don't think they're full of blacks and crazy people, out of their minds on drugs, living on the streets of San Francisco. So I don't think that they have quite the same problems. Okay, I mean you can say because they enjoy being under the leadership of Putin, and he's a sensible man, and he does care about the Russians. While we have this crazy system that have corrupt and incompetent. Well, that makes us our ruling classes incompetent and corrupt, and isn't it at some level a moral problem if so many people are corrupt and incompetent? And I'm saying it's a combination of bad parenting, of illegitimate offspring who were the products of casual sex, living in the homes of their unmarried mothers who'd never met their fathers, in their fatherless homes, and there's bound to be a lot of people with mummy and daddy issues, as well as addiction issues and mental health issues, and causing them to take drugs, commit crime, not get married, be degenerate, etc. I don't know why you can just dismiss that, because you at least understand what a burden it is to be a parent, to the extent that you actually say you don't think you'd like to do it, and that's why you've created a system to support your doing that. But but perhaps it's always been like that. That okay, it's not easy. Not all of us want to do it, and even if we wanted to do it, we would have to find somebody prepared to do it with us. Otherwise, we'd have to give up that idea, and that seems fair enough.
But Claire, as there's a reason why white people put in the Constitution pursuit of happiness. I don't think other races would think to put something like that in, because if you're not happy, then your life is not really worth it. And I think
it used to be pursuit of land, and then Jefferson thought, ooh, it sounds a bit grasping, doesn't it? Better put pursuit of happiness. I don't know if you've heard of that. Have you heard of that?
Well, there's a reason why it's in there, and it does have to
because
do
it sounded innocuous, Vincent. It sounded innocuous.
That's a very the pursuit of happiness. They put that in there for a reason, because happiness is without happiness, life becomes unbearable.
Yes. If you pursue happiness, you could end up being very unhappy.
Okay, but you're putting people in a position that is so unbearable that there's constant revolutions against it. This is like, it's like the land of Israel had constant revolutions. The people didn't want to live like that. They reverted to pagans, and the pagans were murdering the Jews, and the Jews were murdering the pagans, and they couldn't maintain their civilization. Why would you want to be like ancient Israel, of people who can't maintain their civilization because it's too strict?
Well, the Quran is not as strict as
but it's going to restrict.
Torah. And also there was a problem with the Sadducees and the Pharisees, and we know that they didn't like each other.
The war between the pagans and the Jews had nothing to do with Sadducees and Pharisees.
Oh, okay. I thought you're talking about the Canaanites, right?
No, I am talking about Jews who did not want to live under the God of Israel, and who rebelled and became pagans, and then started fighting with the Jews because the Jews wouldn't leave them the fuck alone and let them do whatever they wanted in the land of Israel.
Okay, I haven't heard of this one. Which book of the Bible is this?
The 10 northern tribes turned to paganism. You didn't know that the people in Israel, the Jews, didn't want to live like that anymore, and the 10 northern tribes went to idolatry. And then there was Jezebel. Jezebel was not a Canaanite. She was Jezebel came after the Canaanites had been subjugated. She was a Jewess who went back to paganism.
Okay. I know that they were recidivist in their idolatry, and the first example was they started worshipping the golden calf, and I think this is because all of us worship material things, and we can't help but we want things and precious beautiful possessions and people, and a lot of it this desire causes pain, and so I mean it's normal. It's sort of just something we have to watch out for.
Okay, Jezebel was actually from Tyre, but she was married to King Ahab of Israel, and she drew him into idolatry, and then she started getting him to make plots against but this was very common that Jews would defect. Solomon defected and became an idol worshiper.
Did he?
Yes, you didn't know that?
Solomon? No, I didn't. I mean, I know he had many wives and concubines, but I didn't know
and
he became...
they drew him into idolatry. Look it up. When Solomon died, an idol worshiper.
Oh.
Yes,
Which
Solomon.
did he worship?
All of them, Ashtoreth and all of them. He died an idol worshiper.
Okay, that's news to me. So obviously it's very hard to, not be an idolater, and even Muslims know that, because they're saying not only is idolatry very tempting, there is this concept of hidden idolatry, which is pretending to pray when you're thinking of sinful things, or appearing to pray to be virtue signaling and not really worshipping God, but trying to impress people with your piety, and they've got very developed ideas, these Muslims, about hidden idolatry, and I'm actually saying it's as bad. You might as well be an idolater if all you're doing is pretending to be Muslim but not really following the rules, and just waiting for just not following the rules. And I'm saying, in the end, you are no better than an idolater, because you're not following the rules of your declared moral system. Will mean that you won't have the benefit of being rightly guided by the Quran, and that is why so many Muslim empires have crashed and burned. So they may be, Muslim outwardly and have beautiful, mosques and palaces, etc. But they didn't really, in their hearts, follow the rules. And for that reason, their empires did not survive. And that is my explanation for why Muslims are not masters of the universe. So, it's your existence is not assured just because you have the book, because you could have the book and not follow it, as many of us know, who have recipe books and instruction manuals that we can't be bothered to look at. So every now and then, it's like, oh, well, I'll just fiddle with this piece of electronic equipment because I can't be bothered to look up the manual, and then they might actually damage their own equipment by fiddling around with it. So I think that is a problem. That all these expressions that express the same kind of mistake or reluctance to do the right thing, like, oh, you can drag a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And I know that there was some Wikipedia entry years ago about some Chinese philosopher. I wish I could remember his name, but he was saying, yeah, people know what they're supposed to do, because if you ask them, in such and such a circumstance, what you should do, and they'll give you the correct answer, and then you go and check up on them later, and say, well, you said you should do this and this. Why didn't you do it? And they can't really answer you other than to say, well, I just, it may be true, the arguments might be correct, but I can't see any advantage in me doing this thing, so I won't do it, unless I'm bribed or incentivized in some way or threatened. And this is, the crux of the problem, the carrot and the stick. So, if we're just going to be cattle, waiting to be bribed or threatened, then we're not doing the right thing for the right reasons. We're just behaving like cattle. And the whole idea of having principles is to say, well, these principles protect me because they are, God's instructions, and I have to, follow them to lead a virtuous life and go to the better place in the afterlife. And this kind of belief needs to be, well, articulated and reinforced, societally. So I mean, you can do all kinds of things like, well, we may all be Muslims, for example, but not all of us are believing righteous Muslims. Some of us may be hypocrites and liars and may only pretend to be Muslim in order to be one of the gang, but they're not really, because they are, treacherous, and if you give them a chance, they might murder, steal, and rape your daughter, etc. So then, okay, so the next thing you do when you realize that, as a Muslim, that not all Muslims are virtuous, you at least have the benefit of saying, well, what kind of Muslim is this, or what kind of Jew is he? Is he an observant Jew, or is he the kind of Muslim that will be, eating pork in a casino and while drinking? So there are ways of working out who is righteous and who is just sort of, using the religion for their own benefit. So that is a reason for these rules.
Okay, but okay, so I have to believe the ridiculous claim that all of the worlds were Noahidic monotheists, and that vanished without a trace, and all of these polytheistic cultures came later, and there's just no evidence that ancient cultures were following the ways of Noah, since we were all the children of Noah. And this is what Muslims want you to believe, that everyone was monotheist and that Abraham built the Kaaba. And that, who wants to believe nonsense like that?
Well, I can give you, I think, a halfway believable explanation for the flood. So, it may be obvious about the Noahide laws. I mean, they have to be obvious. So any decent person would say, no, of course I wouldn't, steal and rob and rape, etc. And but maybe what was missing in the times of Noah was writing. So they only had an oral tradition. So they, didn't have it down in writing. And as far as the law is concerned, you need everything down in writing. And this is the first principle of, the law.
You missed the whole point, that there's absolutely no evidence that we were all Noahide monotheists prior to the rise of paganism. There's no evidence of that.
Well, if you were being logical, I mean, okay, you can imagine yourself to
Claire, show me historically the fact that we were all Noahide monotheists before we devolved into paganism.
Well, obviously I can't show you
yeah, because it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist.
No, I mean, you can imagine people a long time ago having in their minds these laws, which they probably agree with, like, well, we shouldn't cause.
Where is the evidence that everyone were that if all these polytheistic religions would have had traces of Adam, of Eve, of all these different traces, they would have had traces of the Noahide laws. There would have been traces. There's not a trace.
No, because it was an oral tradition.
Okay, there's not. Okay,
if writing hadn't been invented, well, then it just sort of resided in the minds of people.
Okay, well, there would have been Adam, Eve. There would have been some distortion. There would have been some distorted version of Adam and Eve and Noah and the flood and all these. There would have been distortions.
Well, actually, in Chinese mythology, there's a mention of a flood. In Greek mythology,
okay, yes, flood. Okay, but where's Adam and Eve? Where are all these idolatrous cultures that evolved out of Noahide monotheism? Where's the trace of the beginning culture that they all came out of? Where's the traces of that?
I'm sorry, I don't think I really understand. What are you?
Okay, Claire, according to Muslims, everyone was a Noahide because everyone is a child of Noah and Noah was a monotheist. Everyone on earth was a Noahide monotheist. And then I'm just supposed to believe that they all just totally forgot about that, devolved into idolatry, and there was no trace of this Noahide monotheism anywhere. I'm supposed to
Because
believe that
it was
shit.
washed away in the flood. And
No,
even
it
if it
wasn't.
weren't,
This is after the flood.
okay, but if nobody had any books or written material,
There was
then
oral, and so there were plenty of oral traditions, pagan oral traditions that didn't need writing down and were maintained by the population. You need to show me that these people evolved out of Noahidism.
I don't see how. I mean, okay, even in the times of Noah, it's like, well, most people in the times of Noah obviously didn't follow those rules, but Noah knew those rules, and he had this idea that God was getting angry and would wash the world away in a flood, and that was why he built his ark and everything, and then after that, I think the idea was that he got God to promise he would never do such a thing again, and God promised he wouldn't do it again.
You're missing the point. There's no evidence of a monotheistic world, a monotheistic religion prior to paganism.
I don't know, what kind of evidence are you looking for?
I'm looking for some kind of religious, cultural legend, something that goes back to Noah and monotheism. And it's not, and it would need to be in every culture on earth. I think you're just being silly and acting like you can't understand the question.
No, I genuinely don't know what you expect me
Okay,
to produce.
so we were all Noahide monotheists and it vanished without a trace.
No, the whole idea is that there was this, that there were these Noahide laws, and only Noah and the people closest to him obeyed those laws. And so
And
God was
all
really
his
angry.
sons, no, his sons, him and his sons were all monotheists. Their children would have been taught monotheism. There's no evidence that children were being taught monotheism 10,000 years ago.
Well, I don't know what kind of evidence you would.
Something there. Look, there's evidence in Christianity. There's evidence of its pre-pagan roots. There's Christmas. There's Easter. There's the Trinity. There's resurrection that comes from other legends in other places. And Horus was born on the same day, and this and that. There's all this evidence that it had a pre-pagan, it had a pagan origin.
Okay, well, I mean, I'm sure that amongst the monotheists there would be pagans. Yes. So, what does
Okay,
that
never
prove,
mind.
though?
Never mind, Claire. Never mind. You don't get it.
No, I don't. But
No,
I am trying to.
you would never be able to show with any kind of evidence that there was some Noah monotheistic world religion that existed prior to the rise of paganism.
Um, well, but I don't know what kind of evidence would
Well,
satisfy you.
okay, well, I can show with Christianity that it had pagan origins. Obviously, the Trinity shows that it has pagan origins. Obviously, Christmas and Easter shows that they have pagan origins. There's lots of things about Christianity, and there's people talk about Plato and Christianity, and there, all these similarities between Greek philosophy and Christianity, and the fucking logos, and all this bullshit is all there.
I mean, in a way of festivals, I think celebrating, okay, having seasonal festivals is pretty much universal. So everybody would have a
Well,
spring,
they
autumn, and
stole.
summer.
Well, no, that's not biblical. Why didn't they use biblical holidays? The Bible has its own
Well,
holidays. You don't.
the Jews still celebrate their biblical
Okay,
holidays.
well, we're talking about Christianity, and it obviously has pagan influence, and it shows. And
Well,
if there was some mass Noah religion of monotheism prior to the rise of all these individual pagans, then there would be some evidence of that.
um, okay. I mean, the closest thing the closest question that I asked myself was, um, I have this theory that the Neanderthals were nomadic, and um, and they were happy to have sex with each other and have random partners, and it was okay. They were all in one group, and they went from place to place, you know, um, ate it and trashed it, and then they moved on to the next place, and that was fine. But when they settled down, they invented marriage, and obviously not all the the human groups at the same time decided to practice settled farming. So there was, all these nomadic tribes who were still being nomadic, and then there were all these settled communities who didn't like these nomads, wandering from place to place and trashing everything else, in the same way that people don't like gypsies doing this. So they decided to get rid of them.
Okay,
But
you
I'm
just totally changed the subject. You just totally
no,
changed.
I'm just saying, and then would I be able to show you evidence of this? I don't think so. I'm just saying, we can deduce that, marriage took place because of, farming was discovered, etc.
Okay,
But if you
so
asked me to show me, wedding rings and engagement rings and marriage certificates, I mean, I wouldn't be able to show you that.
okay, well, nobody is able to deduce with any rational or logic that we all descended from one monotheist and the whole earth was monotheistic 10,000 years ago. There's no way to deduce that. If anything, you would just look at ancient cultures and they were all polytheistic, and you would deduce that polytheism was the natural state of humanity.
Yes, okay, so I'm saying that the invention of writing turbocharged the idea of God, because it was only when the Torah was supposed to have, been given to Moses on Mount Sinai, that we have the Torah. And I know people say, oh, of course it wasn't really given to, and he never really existed and blah blah. But the point is, there is a book called the Torah. And it doesn't matter if somebody just made up the story, hundreds of years afterwards. It's that it makes this claim that it comes from God, and there are enough people left in the world who still want to believe in it, and that will do. Ditto the Quran, and it's all because it's written down, and they're ancient. Of course it has to be written down and ancient and generally acknowledged, and then it has the power. The power.
You're obsessed with status. It's disgusting. You're just obsessed
Why?
with status.
Otherwise, you'll just never get anything done.
That's not modern Western values, to be obsessed with status like that.
Oh, that's ridiculous. All the consumer goods that were persuaded to buy contain elements of status, like
that's a good product. I mean, I think the West is looking for something new, but modern Americans are not hierarchical. They're more individualistic. They don't care if somebody is more rich than them. They don't care if someone's more popular than them. They have their own individual opinions. And, I don't think America is going to be like, let's join the religion with the highest status. And first of all, most Americans don't consider Islam to be high status.
I know, but that's.
So then, what are you talking about? The status, your low status, and talking about status.
Well, low status people are the ones who are, most fiercely fighting to get a higher status. I understand that Americans consider themselves to be a meritocracy, but in reality, it's not. It's just a fond idea, an ideal. And if you ask,
we are very meritocratic. Anyone born in a trailer or a log cabin can make it all the way to the top in America.
Well, either that, or you actually have a caste system that you have not acknowledged.
No, we don't. You know what, Claire? If you're trying to say that people can't rise out of poverty, I don't know what to tell you. It happens all the time in America.
Well, it would help if you had good enough schools that actually taught people stuff that is useful to learn, so they can,
that's a
get
different,
a decent job
topic.
And climb the career ladder, etc.
You're just changing the subject.
I'm not changing. We were talking about status, and status can be acquired in America through education and industry.
Okay, in America, it's easy to gain status even when you come from a low place. It's not, as long as you work.
Can you give an example? Is it some sort of, musician or something, or some
Claire, okay, I mean, if you think that everyone born in America, if they're poor, they stay poor, and if they're rich, they stay rich, then that's just a dumb assumption that,
No, I
you
don't
know,
say that. But
okay, then why
obviously,
do so many,
Vincent, why
why do,
can't you accept that?
okay,
that oh,
you're the one
you
who said,
carry.
you're the one who said Abraham Lincoln was born in a log cabin.
Yeah, so, and I'm saying it's good that somebody born in a log cabin can become president of America, and obviously, I would support a meritocracy. But I'm saying in the UK with a more rigid class system. Some people have joked that it's not just a class system; it's a caste system. And if you live in the wrong neighborhood, you're never going to get a good enough education to learn enough reading and writing to get a decent job. To
Claire, all English schools are standardized, and I don't think that British people have a problem with illiteracy.
well, I
And
happen to
your
know.
whole class system is just totally being destroyed with all of these immigrants. And what upper classes anymore? They're all dead or old, or it's not who pays attention. Who's like, ooh, royalty? Like, it's not people. People don't worship royalty in England anymore.
No, I know they don't, but I'm saying that a class system would exist in China, in Russia, in any country because everybody instinctively wants to know where they stand in the pecking order. And that's why you have things like, purity spiraling and pecking order. It's because people just want to know, who's top dog and who's at the bottom. And they do it through interacting with each other, or fighting with each other if they're animals or even humans. So, and that is a source of, a lot of conflict. I mean, women do it to each other by, being more beautiful or being more bitchy and clever with words, etc., etc. So I think instinctively people try. Yeah, I mean, even in the gay community, you were the one who told me that masculine gay men are higher status than effeminate gay men. So it all comes in uh, um, wherever we are in the world. So I don't.
Okay, but
Okay, I'm saying it's useful for us to work things out. It's like,
there's degrees of this. Look, if this might work more with Asiatic people, but to make everything about class, status, hierarchy in modern Western civilization, it's not gonna. People don't think like that anymore in the West.
well, okay, I would disagree, but it's not even about this sort of thing that I'm saying it's important. Hierarchy is important for us, because if we're talking about God's laws, then the whole point of having God's laws is that we as humans don't have to fight each other about whose idea of the perfect world is, because somebody's going to say, "Who are you, Vincent, to tell us?" What to do, and we already know, from the visitors to your spaces, and you do that to Jews. You say these secular Jews coming into my space to tell us to claim to represent Judaism. I don't rate them at all. I don't respect their view. So you unconsciously use status to distinguish between the religious Jew and the secular Jew, and you're saying, the secular Jews might as well be treated as Gentiles because you do not accept their authority.
Okay, but generally in America, people don't give Orthodox Jews higher status as Jews than secular Jews. We individually do that, but in America, if you said who's higher status, Orthodox Jews or secular liberal Jews, most people are like, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
Yes, I know, but this is key to the problem. I'm so glad you mentioned it because really, religious Jews don't get a look in because everybody thinks they're stupid, right? They look funny with their silly hats and silly beards and ringlets, and they're not fashionable, and nobody, thinks of looking at them. And the more powerful Jew is the assimilator Jew, who looks like, a cool Gentile. So that is the difference. But this means that we have to ask ourselves, do we want to be secular or do we want to be religious? Because if we're going to be religious as Gentiles, then we would be more prepared to take the views of Orthodox rabbis seriously. But in the current secular, liberal, godless climate, nobody's going to take the views of any religious person seriously, and that's why they are nowhere. But we could change by saying, well, these secular Jews, well, what are they for? They're no better than us. We're not going to accept their authority. And if more and more people thought like that, then yes, things could go to, in the direction of what I hope. And this is really my plan. Talking about, who is righteous, which I think is a very important concept to do with the no-hide laws that you are always talking about. Because, I think the no-hide laws is the, the standard by which to measure the righteousness of a Jew or Gentile. So, if you meet a Jew who doesn't want to talk about it, you think, oh, he's, obviously not wanting to get into trouble with Gentiles by calling them idolaters, which means he doesn't take idolatry seriously. I think the concept is key. Righteousness, meaning, adhering to principle, whatever the principle, that person claims to have. So there's no point, saying, oh, I'm a Jew. And it's like, oh, but you don't even follow, you don't even keep the Sabbath. You're not really a Jew. You might as well be treated as a Gentile, which is, exactly your attitude towards I think Princess Hannah and Martin Shlomo and Disa Sachs and Colonel Quack or something, whatever his name was. And this is instinctively how we decide, who to listen to. So, I'm not talking about status like, oh, who's had the nicest holidays and the most expensive luxury car. I'm saying, in order to distinguish between the virtue of an individual, we have to work out whether that person is moral or not. And even without the no-hide laws, the presumption is that, okay, even if you want to break all the no-hide laws, you might be worth dealing with if you're not a liar and keep your promises. That would be a start. Vincent's muted himself. But I'm very pleased at how far we've gotten. Because we're now on the subject of righteousness. Do you consider yourself to be a righteous person, Vincent?
A little, not like perfect, a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a horrible person.
Well, you think you are not a liar.
Probably not. No, I mean, I'm pretty honest about what I think and what I believe.
Yes, and I do appreciate that in you, because you're not going to just sort of change your mind and say, oh, I never said that, when you did. So well, that's why we, I think we can talk. I mean, you know how often I lose my temper with Jay, because, he won't even accept that he has contradicted himself. or he has no problem in contradicting himself. He just doesn't see the problem. And that's what basically drives me crazy. Because one of the tools of philosophical reasoning is that if you're contradicting yourself, then whatever argument that you have just made is invalid because you've contradicted yourself. There's even a formal term called the law of the excluded middle. Such as it cannot be raining and not raining in the same place at the same time. And if you are saying the equivalent of that, then you're just talking nonsense. And you can tell that when somebody talks about a married spinster or a married bachelor, and then we have more sophisticated words like oxymoron, or some might say secular Koranism. And if we're able to reconcile what is apparently contradictory by giving an explanation, then we have basically solved the problem. So with regard to the no-hide laws and secular Koranism, what I'm doing is this. I'm using the no-hide laws to get these rabbis to rank the four Gentile religions. So even if the rabbis say, this Quran, it's not good enough because there's no punishment for idolatry and blasphemy, it's like, fine. You can say that because I know there's nothing else more no-hide than the Quran. And I'm happy with that. And actually, because of the First Amendment, I do not want the Quran to punish idolatry and blasphemy. And I do not, want to find myself in a position of having to say, oh, you'll have to be closing your idolatrous churches and idolatrous Hindu temples and Buddhist temples full of, the idols of the Buddha. And that is a principle I want to establish, that no place of religious worship is going to be, interfered with. And idols will be allowed. And I don't know if you understand that, but I want you to understand that no no idols will be damaged under secular Koranism. And that's why you should support it.
Well, I don't want idol worship to be degraded by the government either, which you said would happen.
Okay, we can deal with that by, historically that the Abrahamic religions are the most high status religions. So why would you want to use a not so high status religion for your own country, for your own people?
Okay,
Don't you
look,
think
I don't
Americans
want the
deserve
government.
best?
I don't want the government promoting anti-idolatry. No.
But they wouldn't because of the First
Yes,
Amendment.
you said that the government would chastise idolatry.
Well, I suppose, people, in between the lines would be, well, if Americans are using secular Koranism, then obviously the religion to be will be Islam. But the whole idea is not to have a state religion.
Okay, but you're still...
Which is part of the American legal tradition, which I, want to point out that I respect.
The bird? Hold on one second, Claire.
Mm-hmm.
What?
I don't know what you mean, good plan, guys, says Kumit. Oh, yes, the plan to ban belief in the Abrahamic God.
Claire, can you give me 5 minutes?
Sure.
Okay, I'll be right back. I just got to do something.
Okay. So I will monologue for about 5 minutes about why Vincent's plan is evil. So what Vincent proposes to do is only obey 4 of the of the no-hike laws. So there are 7, and Vincent has already said he's going to allow idolatry, allow blasphemy, and allow sexual morality. And the only 3 laws that he's going to follow is no murder, no theft, no eating an animal while it's still alive, and obviously, having a court and legal system to enforce these laws. But obviously, the more no-hike laws you obey, the better your standing with God, if He exists. So the whole idea is that in order to invoke the protection of God, you obey His laws, and then your civilization lasts longer than other civilizations. So that seems to be the lesson of the 5 world religions. So as I've already pointed out, the 3 Abrahamic religions are more powerful than the 2 Eastern religions, but all the 5 world religions support the institution of marriage and the family, and that's why they remain the top 5 world religions, because they support marriage and family values. What about the others? I mean, the others would be, the Baha'i faith, and Chinese ancestor worship, Scientology, and all the others that haven't quite made it in the top 5. And what about Marxism? Because we shouldn't ignore China, which has a total population of what is it, 1.2 billion or something. So we know that their official moral system is socialism with Chinese characteristics, and it's a secular political ideology coming from Marx. And the problem with the secular political ideologies that everybody acknowledges to come from mortal and fallible, deceased individuals is that you will just be subject to, another dead white male problem of, well, he's dead now. He can't do anything to us if we don't obey his laws. And also, things are different. So, talking about the Chinese, they go on about Confucius, but do they really follow, Confucian principles? I rather doubt it. Obviously, people like to go on about their, philosophers, etc. But probably most people don't understand philosophy. They just see, Confucius as somebody famous, whose books they haven't read, but hey, he's one of us, and let's big him up. A bit like Shakespeare for the English. Most English people haven't read all of the plays of Shakespeare, but he's supposed to, contain. Well, he does contain a lot of, wisdom. To the extent that people think, his plays are so brilliant that it couldn't have been written by Shakespeare alone. It must have been, written by somebody else, or written by a committee of people. There are all kinds of conspiracy theories about who wrote the complete works of Shakespeare. But the point is, on the question of status, humans are very competitive. Even people in the same family can be very competitive, and if we don't watch out, people will kill each other in order to acquire resources and status, and women, and all kinds of things that they want. And the law is necessary for their behavior towards each other to be regulated, so that they they do what is permissible to compete fairly and legally with each other, but do not go beyond what they're supposed to go and kill or steal and, rape and whatever. So the law is necessary, and the law has to be written down. And I know with the history of the Roman Republic, the principle that the plebs wanted the patricians to respect is that they carve the laws of Rome into stone in the Roman Forum, so it's available for the plebs, because being plebeian, they don't have they didn't have access to libraries, but they still wanted to know what rights they had, and so if it was carved down in a readily accessible place, then they would be able to know what their rights are, and that was the whole purpose of the law, and why it had to be properly written down with words that do not change, to avoid Roman citizens becoming victims of arbitrary justice. What is arbitrary justice? It is not getting the same punishment or award for your legal action when the principle and the facts are the circumstances are the same. So I don't know if Vincent has come back. Have I spoken for 5 minutes? I think I have. Okay, he hasn't come back. So I'm going to continue by saying that the most high status religious group are the Jews. And I know it's annoying, but there we are. They were the people first in receipt of the Torah, who've been around for the longest, the world's most ancient and powerful tribe. And even if the individual Jew leads a life that we would not find particularly enviable, they still have the reputation of being the highest status religious group in the world. And after that, the Romans decided to culturally appropriate the deity and the scripture of the Jews and create Christianity. And then after that, the Muslims did something, or you could say they did that, or God gave them another revelation. So I think you can see that with each stage there was some improvement and some benefits for the people who adopted it. Why did Christianity fail? Anyone who's a lawyer with any knowledge of legal drafting would tell you that when you draft a document, you have to draft it clearly and not vaguely, and you have to anticipate all kinds of circumstances where the contract might be broken, and specify what's going to happen, and then you will have a well drafted legal contract. But and so the opposite of that is a badly drafted legal contract, which doesn't say anything clearly, with vague words saying extremist things, without talking about exceptions. So, and this would be the New Testament. So I'm saying that the Quran is obviously a superior document, being better drafted and from the highest status source conceivable, the hypothetical supreme authority. And it doesn't matter if you don't think that God actually wrote it. It's enough that the claim is that Allah wrote it. because nobody can refute that God
Hello?
wrote the
Hello?
Quran. Yes, hello. Thank you for coming back. I was running out of steam. Were you listening to any of it?
No, I wasn't.
Mm-hmm. So I was monologuing about why written scripture is better than oral traditions, and obviously the claim is, very important. So you can say, oh, but we don't believe that the Torah was given to Moses on Mount Sinai. It's like, yes, okay, you don't believe, but this is a claim and this is what we believe, and you can't disprove it. So it wouldn't be unreasonable to believe in it if you were Jewish, for example. So I think this is how it works, and so now, we have, Christianity, which is a religion of the white man, but we sort of know that he no longer believes in it nor follows it, and in the last 250 years, it's been, Christianity has been marginalized by liberalism, and liberalism had a near miss last century when it was nearly replaced by National Socialism. And I think this tends to make Western governments very nervous about Nazis. And that's why, they call everybody a Nazi and try to censor us. Because they had a near miss, and that's why they're so neurotic about liberalism being displaced either by National Socialism or something else that they don't like. But I think it's a historical inevitability.
La 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 la.
So you might as well come on board.
No, I'd rather die than live under your system, Claire.
But it would
Look,
be
if you're
your
just going
system.
to if you're just going to make white people suicidal, then I don't think that this
No,
is
you
a very
won't.
good.
You'll be the representative of no, okay, maybe that's a bit awkward, but okay, under my system of my one party state, instead of elections, people will just have representatives to represent them, farmers and academics and business organizations. And, is there any particular organization you wish to, a group of people you'd like to represent, Vincent?
The Idolators Association.
Okay. I mean, yeah.
All idolaters and blasphemers in secular Koranism need representatives since it is legal.
Okay. You have the job. Because it's not illegal, and I'm not even going against my own principles. I'll just let the Jews go, oh, he's an idolater and blasphemer. And I guess the Muslims will say, well, actually, there's no prescribed punishment for people like Vincent. Unless we catch him cottaging, we can't really do anything about him. Deal? Because if you did agree, we could just conquer the world.
Do you know who this Chris Brunette is?
Who? What? Who are you talking about?
Okay. If you don't know who he is, it's fine.
Where have you found him?
Online, people are talking about him a lot.
What does he say?
I don't know. He supposedly started out working for some pro-Israeli think tank, and then he wasn't pulling the line for Israel, and now he's a groyper.
Right. But should groypers be taken seriously? You seem to have a fondness for them. I don't know. What
I don't have a
Christopher
fondness for
Brunet?
them, but if they make up a certain percentage of the population, then they're not insignificant. I mean, look, I mean, this whole thing that you need millions of people in order for something to have an effect is very like that's just not the culture I come from. Because I come from a small culture, I know that small cultures can do a lot, and I don't care. You know, do I see enough of them to make me concerned? Yeah, I do. I see enough of them. I mean, if every 100th person that you meet online is a groyper, that's a lot.
I mean, a groyper is just another, it's just a cute name for white nationalist, isn't it? It is. And then every now and then they'll say, "Oh, but our leader is Catholic." So, and that's where I guess they get the idea of Christian nationalism. Do you think?
What? That groyper just means Christian nationalism?
Well, isn't groyper a cute name for white nationalist?
No, it means you're a follower of Nick Fuentes.
Doesn't Nick Fuentes represent white nationalists?
Not all of them. He's a Catholic, wants a Catholic monarchy, and there's pagan white nationalists and Protestant white nationalists and Orthodox white nationalists that don't want that. There's secular white nationalists, and no, groyper is a specific brand. It means you follow what's his name?
Nick Fuentes.
Nick Fuentes.
Okay, but I guess he's not okay. He has a religion, which I guess is sensible of him. Yeah, he's spoken to E. Michael Jones, hasn't he? I must go and find out what the exchange was. Did you ever see that one? Nick Fuentes and E. Michael
No,
Jones?
well, they're both Catholics and they're both anti-Jewish, so there was probably no.
They probably didn't fight about anything. Yeah, maybe I'll look that up. But I remember he was kind of E. Michael Jones was kind of telling of Nick Fuentes, and I suppose I should look at the one with E. Michael Jones and Richard Spencer. But anyway, maybe nobody is serious because all the scenarios being proposed is like, well, you're not going to have a Catholic king in America, and you're not going to have an Orthodox Christian king in America either, Jay Dyer, and and E. Michael Jones is not going to be the Pope, conducting an inquisition on the Jews and the Protestants. So, I almost can't believe that I'm the only one with a practical solution with, taking seriously, the US Constitution and American history and stuff. And nobody will engage with me properly, except you. But don't you want to be taken seriously, Vincent?
Well,
Why not?
I'm not going to just reach for status and dilute my message. I'm not going to do that.
What is your message?
Well, no monotheism, no anti-blasphemy laws.
Yeah, but why you have to argue? You have to win
because
the
I'm a
argument
natural
and prove
born
that it's better.
because I'm a natural born polytheist. If you just leave people to their own devices, we know that they're polytheistic idolators, and I just don't want that being interrupted by some, just like Muslims don't want polytheists going into their land, spreading polytheism and attempting to get people out of the mosques. They wouldn't allow it. It's just you want it for yourself but not other people.
Well, the thing is, all these things are already in existence in America, in that America is sort of Christian, not really Christian, sort of proto-Muslim, but not really. But anyway, the idea is that if Americans worship a god at all, it is the Abrahamic God, and Americans are not known for being pagan.
Okay, well, it's returning. Everyone's fretting. I mean, I see Jews and Christians, and Nick Fuentes frets about the rise of paganism. He says the rise of paganism is more dangerous than illegal immigration.
Oh, really? What was?
Yeah, he did say that. He's more worried. He said that sorcerers and all this stuff would be beheaded under his regime.
Well, I suppose that there's no way of. I mean, you could just disapprove of people who go on about their horoscopes and astrologers, and you'll find that newspapers are still printing horoscopes.
Okay, well,
Um,
the government shouldn't be trashing people like that. No.
yeah, but even if people are not trash, certain ideas are mainstream and other ideas not. So,
Okay, well,
um,
in the past 50 years, astrology, paganism, witchcraft, polytheism, these have all exploded. They're not shrinking. I mean, there's enough Christians and Muslims that, I mean, even when I was a child, Christian pastors were fretting about the young people going pagan. There's Russian Orthodox clergy in Russia that are scared of paganism growing. It is spreading. And that's it. It's spreading. It's growing. It disappeared for a while, but now it's back with a vengeance. And if it has secular paganism, it'll have a strong protective foundation. And it's returning. And there's nothing you can do to change that.
yeah, but I do think you should be celebrating it because it means a more divided society, and therefore a society more prone to violence and the inability to deal with it. So we already know from Western history that even when white people were all white and had the same religion, they started fighting each other because they have a
Yeah,
different interpretation of the Bible,
yeah, well, Muslims
right?
do the same thing. They're all divided over who's this and who's that, and there's 72 different sects, and you know what I mean? Like they have inter-conflict too. Just because you're all monotheist doesn't mean that you have no internal conflict. I mean, if anything, there were no religious wars between pagans like that internally in Rome, even though they all had different gods. It was only the Christian whites that were murdering each other in the name of God.
Well, I'm sure there were plenty of tribal wars who, and
But that it wasn't over religion. It wasn't the followers of Mars in Rome weren't killing the followers of Venus. That didn't happen.
okay, but I mean, I'm talking about before the Roman Empire, so and the
Okay,
Roman
that's
Republic.
tribal, but it wasn't there were no mass wars of conversion or you don't worship the right God, so we're just going to kill you for no other reason than because you don't have the right religion. They didn't do that. Maybe they wanted land, resources, slaves, this, that, but it wasn't over religious differences.
But don't you see that there is a kind of Darwinian struggle for survival
Oh,
even
and they're
amongst
coming back. Okay,
religions?
and yes, and they're coming back, and they're coming back mutated, and different paganism mutates, and instead of just accepting monotheism this time, they just they simply can't accept it, and it's something you learn from your past, and it's back, and it's not going back in the bottle anytime soon, and also, I don't need to take over the whole world in my lifetime. If it takes 20, 50, 60 years for paganism to take over, well then so be it. I mean, it's like I don't you want everything big, boom, bust now, huge, you know what I
Shocking.
mean?
Oh, that's another American idea that I've adopted. I just don't
Well,
see why you can't be more American.
it's just I'm taking a more practical route than waiting, for
Yeah, well,
that.
your silver bullet idea of artificial wombs. I mean, is that practical, really?
Why is it? It's a piece of technology. That's like saying. Oh, portable phones will never be invented. Do you really think that portable phones are coming? Do you really think people are going to be able to see their face on little tablets that they hold in their hand? That sounds so bizarre. That sounds like something from science fiction. That's 150 years away. Blah, blah, blah. There were people who used to talk like that. Same thing with electricity. Same thing with this. Any piece of same thing with birth control. There were people who didn't even think a pill that would reduce your fertility was even possible. That was bizarre thinking at the time. Margaret Sanger was, people were like, what the fuck are you talking about? People didn't even think that would be possible.
Okay, so a lot of things are now possible. And but if you think you're a righteous person, doesn't it concern you that your plan may be considered evil?
Well, birth control was considered evil too.
I didn't know that.
Yes, it was. There were thousands, and everyone was against birth control until they fought for it, and then they won. It was illegal to spread birth control information in America. It was illegal.
Okay. I didn't know that.
It was illegal. It was illegal to send birth control information through mail carrier.
Okay. I mean, it's a matter of interpretation, and I'm basically saying that even if everybody was supposed to be one religion, following one book, that there will be, disagreements about how to interpret particular, verses or whatever. But you would be minimizing the areas of disagreement. Wouldn't you like to do that?
What area? What doctrine are polytheists disagreeing over? Can you give me a doctrine that they disagree over?
Okay, so the problem with polytheists, I mean, it's so hard to even think of it because, I guess we can only just go to what Hinduism.
Hinduism is not polytheism. Leave that out of it. Let's talk about real polytheism.
Such as
what the Europeans were practicing.
Yeah, but it's extinct now, so I don't know why we...
It's coming back. It's not extinct. First of all, it never disappeared. And it is back with a vengeance. It's not extinct. It's growing. There's more pagans than there are secular Koranists. As somebody who has not a single follower, you're very arrogant, and you just dismiss anything else that has millions of more followers than you do. And you talk about status all day when you have no status. Pagans have more status in America than secular Koranists do.
Which pagans?
There are more pagans in America with more political power than secular Koranists.
Okay, name a pagan with political power then.
At least they have voting power.
Oh, in terms of... Okay, well...
There's more pagan shrines in America than there are secular Koranist lounges to sit around and discuss the Quran all day.
Well, okay, I guess I believe that if somebody were to adopt it, then it would be easily rolled out and, discussed through mainstream media, etc., etc. So I'm saying that once it is picked up, it will begin to snowball. So I don't mind not being top dog at the moment.
Well, paganism is growing faster than secular Koranism. It's not top dog yet, but it has everything. Anything that's growing has potential. If it's growing, it has potential. I mean, witchcraft and everything is one of the fastest growing religions amongst millennials. I remember that thing got put out and people were like, if priests are around the world are fretting over the return of paganism, there's something going on there.
Yes, it is the collapse of Western civilization, because the whole point of, building any society is like, you just need, you need laws, and these laws need to be based on some moral authority or some moral system that has been proven to work.
The Romans had laws that were not based on any moral authority. You can have natural law that just makes sense. You don't need these gods. You don't need any of this kind of stuff. It's, you don't need it. And the decline of Western civilization, polytheists built Western civilization. They built Greece, they built Rome. Everything's built upon that. And the Christianity was the decline of Western civilization.
Polytheism, I guess the development of polytheism is best seen through the Greek myths. So basically what happened, the Greek pantheon with the Titans at the beginning, because even the gods had a creation myth, right? So the Titans were basically material gods. They were gods of the earth and the sea and all that kind of thing, of material things. And then the Olympians were gods of ideas. And I think this expression of kind of ideological supersessionism is very helpful in showing the progress of human thought. So obviously, well, even the concept of historical materialism is can ideas just float around? Can ideas even take form without physical beings such as human beings thinking of them and talking about them and doing them? And the answer is no. So ideas and material beings need each other to fulfill their destiny, I guess. So with regard to the Greek pantheon, obviously you need the earth and Atlas holding the earth up, and all the things that are also deities on earth to become the
Okay,
the very story that it was.
None of this is all that important beyond worship.
Because actually Saturn wanted to devour Zeus. Did you know that?
Okay, this is just mythology. These aren't like rules to live by.
No, but people still need a story. So it was basically saying, yeah, we've got all the material things, but now the next step, Greeks, is that we need to understand ideas properly through love and persuasion, wisdom and war, and
Okay, there's such thing as natural law. It's just, look, you don't need some kind of moral narrative. The mythology wasn't some kind of moral narrative.
Well, actually, it was, because Zeus was king of the gods on Mount Olympus. So the story, and you may know that it's sometimes mentioned in Homer's Iliad that the god would take sides in the Trojan War, and then things would get out of control, and then Zeus would just sort of come down and sort things out. So there's also this idea of hierarchy, which I know you dislike. So things can be very chaotic, and people just doing whatever they want, and then eventually when things get really chaotic, Zeus comes down from Mount Olympus to sort everyone's shit out. And then so basically
that's not a doctrine for humans to live by. That's not some rules and regulations. These things, I don't even know why you're bringing this up. The point is that humans were able to come up without a moral narrative. They were able to come up with no murder, no theft, these different kinds of rules, no adultery, even in the Roman Empire. I was reading that everyone paints the Roman Empire like it was sexual decadence. It actually wasn't. It was more conservative than people would like to think it was.
Well, I don't think it's right to talk about sexual morality in the Roman Empire as if it was always the same standard, because it was very high at the beginning in Republican times, and then when they became properly imperial, that was when they became very decadent.
Well, so did the Jews. I mean, both the Jews and Romans had laws against adultery, and both of them lapsed. So it's not Romans' fault if Jews can lapse, so can Romans.
Yes. So, but it's all about how whether people believe they're going to be punished. That is the important thing. So
Okay,
if you
Jews
know they're
believed
going to
they
be
would be
punished,
punished and they did it
you try it.
anyway. Okay, nothing stopped the Jews. They knew they were going to be punished. Nothing stopped them from breaking all their rules. It doesn't work. It doesn't matter. If you have people are not going to be murdering each other if they're scared of earthly consequences. People are not going to be stealing if they're scared of earthly consequences. I don't think that prisons are full of atheists and void of Muslims and Christians and Jews. I think that, if anything, probably atheists in America are less likely to murder and steal than Christians, Muslims, and Jews.
I just don't see how you can prove it.
Okay. How many prisoners are atheists?
I think
What
the majority of them would be atheists. And if they call themselves Christian, I wonder if they have been confirmed.
1 in every 1,000 prisoners is atheist, whereas 1 out of every 100 Americans is atheist. So they are way under proportion. They are 10 times less proportionate in prisons than their general population. So yeah, they disproportionately commit less crimes.
I really don't believe that. I mean, I just can't imagine the average criminal being a believer of God.
Okay, well, I just showed you that. Look up Pew Research. Look up Statista. Look up Freedom from Religion Foundation. Look up AI. Just ask it what percentage of Americans are in prison are atheists and get the number. I mean, if you don't want to believe what it's saying, then I don't know what to tell you. I can't give you any more. I can't give you any more evidence. And yeah, I knew that atheists would make up a less percentage.
Okay, so I've got something that says, according to a 2011 survey, 50.6% of inmates were Protestants. So a Pew study found that a majority. Okay, so okay, I don't think that they're being confirmed. So I guess I would just say,
you don't need to be confirmed to be a Protestant. You don't need to be confirmed.
Yes, you do.
Well, they claim they believe in God. If they're claiming they're Protestant.
Well, we know that if you're a prisoner, okay, maybe they weren't sure about the question, right?
They're not sure about the question what their religion is. Claire, you're just grasping at straws to make cases.
No.
Yeah, you are. If
cultural Christian.
They're atheists. Those who describe themselves as atheists are 10 times less likely to commit crimes.
Atheists are less likely?
Yes, if they're 1 in every 100 people, if 1% of the country is atheist and only 1 out of 1,000 atheists are in jail, that means they're disproportionately underrepresented by 10 times.
Okay, I don't accept it, and maybe I'm going to look it up separately. I don't believe. Okay, this is. Okay, this is one that says, are prisoners less likely to be atheists? I don't think it can be relied on.
Okay, well, it seems that from all the research, Pew Research, AI, everyone seems to be agreeing that they're underrepresented. So I don't think there's some conspiracy in America by the American government to make atheists look more moral than theists. I just don't think that's happening.
Well, I think that's happening. I mean,
only 1% of America is atheist. So how are atheist politicians involved in this mass conspiracy to hide atheist crimes?
Well, I would assume that if you're an unmarried parent, you're more likely to be atheist than to be, some staunch Orthodox Jew, Christian, or Muslim.
That's not.
I mean, you're just more likely to be married and stay married if you have a religion and come from a traditional society.
You keep changing the subject. Now you're talking about marriage when we're talking about atheists in prison. Find me a study that shows. I want to see a study that says atheists are overrepresented in prison because I can't find one.
Okay, I would assume that there are more Protestants in America than there are Catholic. So that's why they are the largest group. But
Yeah, well, obviously.
just because somebody says the Christian doesn't mean that they really are.
Well, yes, they obviously believe in God if they say they're Christian.
I don't think
Atheists
they
don't
could.
call atheists don't call themselves Christians. They don't.
Yes, what I'm trying to say is that most Americans would be classified as cultural Christians because most Americans will, if they ever go to a place of worship, it would be a church. And then they would think of themselves, having been to a church, that they're Christian. If they've been to a wedding there or a funeral, a christening. But I'm sure the average American doesn't really think of, do I really believe in God? And because if you're doing the whole thing properly, as they used to do in Europe, it's like, yeah, you get baptized and then you
Okay.
would be confirmed, and there would be a process and classes and things.
Okay. The Muslims make up 1% of the general population in America, but 18% of the prison population. Though a lot of that has to do with conversion, but still, they make up a disproportionate amount of. It says they're the
Yeah,
most people. Well, what does that tell you? That most people in jail convert to Islam. It's the largest. It's the largest.
yeah,
Or
because
it's
you
the
get better food and more rights, and you're less likely to be, gang male raped.
by becoming Muslim.
Yes, there are lots of
No.
prison conversions. In fact,
Okay.
in the
Well, that this is what everyone always says, that if you go into the crime-riddled areas, that's where all the Muslim conversions are going on, which they use as an excuse to show that Islam is a religion for criminals.
I mean, I know that there's uh, well, I would say that men of a certain group, men of fighting age, are more likely to end up in prison than men not of fighting age.
At 4% of UK's population, Muslims make up 18% of criminals in jail in UK.
Yeah, I'm sure there are lots of. I mean, I do know somebody who converted to Islam in prison
Okay, well, so
and is still
they're
Muslim.
overrepresented. They're overrepresented, and atheists are underrepresented. From all the statistics, religious people are overrepresented, or at least Muslims are overrepresented. Atheists are underrepresented, and you cannot find me a study, because I can't find one either, that says that atheists are overrepresented.
Well, I don't believe that the people who commit crimes are, church-going Christians who
It doesn't mean they
think God
believe in
is
God.
watching them and
They believe in
whatever.
God. They believe in God. So what? They believe in
Okay,
God. They're
I
not
think
a.
they're lying.
You know what, Claire? You
Maybe
always
they
accuse.
feel
Whenever
that it,
things don't go your way, you accuse people of being disingenuous. You always
yes.
do this.
Well, we're
No,
not always, but I just
Yes,
find it
you
very hard
do.
to
You
believe.
always do this. Whenever anyone tells you something that they believe and you don't like the answer, you say that they're lying.
Well, I have noticed that, people don't really know their own minds, and there are things that, they don't want to admit to for, social reasons. And then they kind of give themselves away, particularly the people who say, I don't really hate Jews, but
You accuse anyone that doesn't fit your narrative of being disingenuous. You accuse all Christians of being disingenuous. You
yes.
accuse you accuse John Vance of being disingenuous when he converted to Islam. You just say
No,
everyone
I
is
didn't accuse
disingenuous.
him of being disingenuous.
Yes,
I,
you
I, I was
did.
I was making a point of being neutral about it.
No, you weren't. You said that the only reason he converted to Islam was because now he had Muslim friends and Muslim neighbors and didn't need secular Koranism anymore. That's what you said. And he only left you after you started saying that the secular Koranism would tolerate sodomites and lesbians. And he said that in his video, I don't want anything to do with someone who's promoting sodomy. And you said, oh, well, he just found Muslim friends and now that's why he's leaving me. It's not because of what I said or what I promote. He didn't have a change of heart. This is all just disingenuous.
Well, he's changed his mind on so many other things
Okay,
since he,
well,
you
that doesn't
know,
mean people are
abandoned
disingenuous.
secular Koranism.
That
I mean,
doesn't mean
he's
he's
not reliable. I
disingenuous.
mean, he was the one who said, transgenderism, having a tranny girlfriend might be the way ahead for him. So I don't know if he's actually done any of those things. I mean,
You can't just go around accusing everyone of being disingenuous.
well, actually, it's very easy since many
Yeah,
people are
it is.
disingenuous.
It's easy. Yeah, you just think you win this by accusing everyone of lying
Well, I just find
about
it
their
very
own
difficult.
self-identification. People self-identify as something, and you say they're lying.
Yeah, because a lot of people, I mean, you can't really. Okay, with Christians, it's the worst for them because, on the one hand, they pretend to believe that Jesus is God, and then when you ask them a few more questions, you realize they don't even believe in God. And with Jay, he doesn't even believe in an afterlife. So on the one hand, while he talks about God being his best friend and him, God and him fighting shoulder to shoulder and all that crap. When you ask him if he believes in an afterlife, he shrugs his shoulders and says, "Who knows?"
Who's this?
Jay Walker.
Well, Jay Walker believes in God, at least.
Well, I don't think he does because if he did believe in God, he would not be such a coward and change his mind all the time and refuse to, even acknowledge that Christianity has failed. I mean, okay, I know I'm talking to really neurotic people the whole time who don't know their own minds and who contradict themselves. And maybe they don't even want to achieve anything.
Well,
They just want to.
you're trying to win this because self-identified atheists are a lower percentage of the prison population, and you're just trying to say everyone is lying in order to win the argument, and that's just cheap.
Okay, you can pretend that all these Christians in jail are all properly Christian who've been
What about the
confirmed.
Muslims? Are they lying? The Muslims in jail are lying too.
Um, I don't know. I mean,
Oh, so it's
they could
only
no,
Christians
they
lie
could
about.
convert in prison because to get better food and better conditions, and then after they leave, you know, they give it up. I mean, but that wouldn't show up in the prison statistics, would it?
Okay, do you think as many Muslims lie about being Muslims as Christians lie about being Christians?
You can tell if somebody is lying when they refuse to follow the logic of their beliefs. So I mean, I have said well before this, that I think a lot of Jews, including rabbis, are hypocrites because, if they really believed that they're God's chosen people and there is an afterlife and God commands that they martyr themselves, etc., then they would rank the four Gentile religions. But they don't. If the Christians really believe that God exists, then they would give up their idolatry and blasphemy, but they don't. And if Muslims really thought that God exists to punish them for disobeying chapter 18, verse 4, that commands them to admonish those who claim that God has begotten a son, they would do it, but they don't. So I guess, yes, I am saying even people who claim to be Jews, Christians, and Muslims are hypocrites. Yes, I do say that, and I do mean it because they don't put their money where their mouths are. They just pay lip service, in order to be in the gang of Jews and the gang of Christians and the gang of Muslims. Because these religious groups are powerful, and if you say you're one of them, people might think better of you. They might think, oh, he's not really a criminal. He's not likely to lie, you know, and maybe he's suitable for a suitable spouse, husband for my daughter to marry, or a suitable daughter-in-law for my son to marry. I mean, people pretend to be all. It's called virtue signaling.
hold hold on, I'm doing something.
Okay. Hello, Rune Skitzing. Good to see you. Yes, well, I find that this has been a very interesting discussion. I'm glad we, can more closely poke holes into each other's arguments. And when Vincent returns, I will confront him about his righteousness.
You know, people who try to tell people that the whole world used to be monotheist should not talk about righteousness because they're just making stuff up without that goes against the evidence.
I don't say the whole world was,
They should have been if they're all the children of Noah, then there should have been a point where everybody was a monotheist.
Yeah, but the story was that, everybody disobeyed
that's not how humans work. They don't just like change culture and get rid of the old one without a trace. There would be traces of a worldwide Noahidic monotheistic culture, and there's not.
Well, it would have been washed away in the flood anyway.
No, this is after the flood. The Noahide laws were given after the flood.
I thought that the flood came because those were the Noahide laws and nobody obeyed them. And then that was why God got so angry and washed the whole world away. And that's why you find no traces.
And then they Noah and his 3 sons exited the ark and spread the Noahide faith. And there's no evidence of this old Noahide. Yes. What do you think? Just Noah forgot about the Noahide laws and didn't teach his sons about them, and they didn't teach their sons?
Okay, so they went and spread the Noahide laws, but people still ignored them, and then Moses got the Torah on Mount Sinai, and they still broke them. And actually, here's another English saying: "Rules are made to be broken." What do you think that means?
Well, it doesn't mean just go ahead and break the rules.
No, but obviously, when God made his commandments, he expected there to be people who break them. And I know you say
punishments for breaking them. There are punishments for breaking them. You can't just break these rules. There's punishments.
Exactly, but it might not happen immediately. It might happen in your afterlife if there is one and God exists. But the point is that even if God doesn't exist and there is no afterlife, you can work out why bad things happen to you, because it's like, oh, maybe it's because I broke all those laws of God, and that's why my society and me are suffering. And then they might think, well, if I don't want to suffer, I should correct myself. And then they make the correction, and then, things improve. What's wrong with this sort of reasoning?
I missed the very last part. What's wrong with what reasoning?
Rules are made to be broken. So if you break the rules, bad stuff happens. You end up in prison, or you end up in hell, or even if that doesn't happen, people just don't like you, and your business is not good, or whatever. And so even though you break the rules, you will notice when bad stuff happens to you. And when bad stuff happens to you and you suffer, you you wonder why you suffer, and then you work it out like, oh, it's because I've broken all those rules. That's why nobody likes me. That's why I'm in prison. That's why I'm about to be executed for, whatever. I shouldn't have done those things. That's how you're supposed to work things out. So yes, it doesn't mean that the rules are no good just because people break them. It's there to give a guide as to which side of the law you're on. Are you on the right side or the wrong side? And if you're on the wrong side, obviously bad things will happen. And this is how you work things out. So now, America is a global empire, and Americans are not having a good time. It seems they are in despair about their birth rates and World War III and just everything. So, and it's not just America, it's the entire West. And I'm saying this is the reason, and it's so easy to work out and so easy to correct yourself. And if you would just say the word, which is and you have more powerful, because it just comes so much better from you and from me, and you still won't do it, not even to help and save your people and your country and your civilization.
You think heterosexuals want to hear a homosexual talking about how people who have sex out of wedlock should be whipped? You think they want to hear that?
They would hate to hear it coming from you.
Well, they're just going to tell
that
me.
would give it its power. Don't you see that when you tell these people off, it's like, who is Vincent to tell? They say, well, at least you understand it, even if you don't do it. That is what gives your message more power than me telling them. But I mean, what I do is say I'm not Muslim, but I see the point of these laws, and you agree. You see my reasoning, at least. So yeah, they won't like to hear it from you, but at least it would be more shameful to them to hear it from you. For these heterosexual white American men to hear it from you, it would be more deeply humiliating. And they take you more seriously because you're American and gay. And that's why you're so important. And that's why actually you're chosen to do this, because of the irony. And recently, in one of your spaces that I listened to, it was great that you were telling these Jews off, these secular Jews off, that you you didn't consider them to be Jews. I think I did tweet about it, and I was so proud of you. And these Jews didn't know what to say. So I think, in a way, your lowly status and mine, but yours in particular, has a kind of resonance, because status is to do with identity, and obviously people hate me for being who I am and my message. But then if you think of the story of the Jews, it's sort of why have they become so powerful when actually the story goes that they were fleeing slaves? They weren't high status people, they were fleeing landless slaves. But the story is that because they obeyed God's instructions, they conquered Canaan. And then afterwards, when they got settled into the ancient kingdom of Israel, they got too big for their boots, and they suffered recidivism and fell back into idolatry, and then they were punished, and then they were kicked out, and then they got back there, and look at them again with their recidivism. So I think Jews are actually very useful as a kind of control group. It's like, look at them, what have they done again, and their good times and their bad times. So I think a lot of moral lessons can be extracted from their history as well as our own. But I think the sweetest irony is yeah, when you know what you just said that you know these white heterosexual Americans won't like hearing it from you. And the thing is, you can tell it to them, and nobody's going to force you to marry a woman and pay for her shit
Yeah, well, they're
and
going
bring
to
up
tell
children.
me, that's what they're going to tell me. They're going to say, who are you to tell us you're not going to have kids and you're allowed to get sodomized and you're allowed to do whatever you want? And they're just going to tell me, who are you to tell us?
Well, you're
They would
somebody
say,
who understands the theory.
at least heterosexuals having sex outside of wedlock have children. And, they'll say that, at least we're doing that much. We're doing better than you are.
Okay, so they have all these out of wedlock children, and nobody wants to hire them, which is why America is filling up with immigrants. You know, everybody has to have a purpose, and if you're not fit for the purpose of whatever you're supposed to be doing, then you will be replaced, and that's the problem. But I
Well,
think
the real problem is that people are greedy and need an ever expanding economy, and that's the
under
problem.
capitalism, yes.
Yes, they need, you don't need an ever expanding economy. It just doesn't, you can chill out for a little while. I mean, we have everything we need. It's time to chill out, just hang out. You know what I mean? Like, hang out with what you have. You have a house, you have a car. Just chill. It's like, how much more do you need? I mean, Europeans live a less luxurious lifestyle than we do, but they still have a good lifestyle.
Yes, I mean, I remember a book about downsizing, and this was quite a few years ago. Let me look up the publication date of this book on downsizing.
Yeah, so I mean, it's time to downsize, and then we don't need all these immigrants. And
Hmm. Okay, so it's actually a sci-fi comedy in 2017, and yeah, and there's a book. I think there's a book. Okay, 2017. Yeah. So, well, okay, I really think you should go for this message because it will arouse outrage, and you'll get a reaction, and I think yeah, I mean, we are developing the message, and if you go for it, people, more and more people will say, well, how dare, Vincent, how could he, and that is, I think, the way to go, because all these natural feelings of indignation, etc., will come, and people will complain, and your reputation will, be assured, for good or ill, unless and then you can um, use that platform to promote your other ideas. Anyway, have you seen what Rune said about you?
no, what did
I
he
think that's
say?
very nice. He says, I believe that Mr. Bruno is a chosen one because
A
you're
chose?
capable. Oh,
Well, what does that mean? Chosen one? I'm a Jew.
I think you're just chosen to, be successful, make a splash, be significant in some way, and successful with an unusual message, but for the good of your country. And
Hmm.
I hope you will think of it. I I hope you will contemplate it and mull it over and enjoy the success and and good things that will come out of promoting what will be acknowledged as truth and logic and morality and the no-hide laws.
I love my baby birds. Oh my God, I have to look at them to get some kind of happiness in these horrible discussions.
Okay, I'll let you go then.
No, it's okay. Why are you done?
I sort of have to go, but
Okay.
okay. So well, thank you, Vincent, and I guess you'll start another space, and I might. Will you be doing that?
Later, I might have a space with Sarge.
Okay. Well, I might pop in then.
Okay.
Okay. Take care.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.